So welcome to the Honeybee Watch Symposia series. I'm Steve Rogenstein. I'm your host and behind-the-scenes coordinator, as well as Honeybee Watch's project director. And I'm joined today with Rigo Moro, who is our science director. So the purpose of this Symposia series is manifold, namely to build this international coalition, to bring speakers together, to introduce them to one another, to introduce you to them, to bring you together, to spark dialogue, to share resources, etc. Also to provide this platform whereby you can hear different people's projects about free-living honeybees, as well as hear the dialogues that might ensue between researchers that have different perspectives and are working on different aspects of these populations. It's to discuss these individual issues, such as monitoring back in June, today, data rights and data sharing, and in December about this complicated definition of wild or feral or free living or nature-based or whatever you want to call these types of bees. And especially from Honeybee Watch's perspective, these are topics that have been challenging for us in the 3 years of our existence. And what we're hoping is through the Symposia series to talk out the issues and possibly progress on these topics that might lead to solutions and or address different aspects of them that we had not considered before. Specific to today, we are going to talk about data rights, data sharing, the possibility of co-authoring and of publications, etc. And it's a complex topic, and it's something that has challenged us for a very long time. It's been a recurring issue, and it's got very many layers. So Honeybee Watch works directly with citizen scientists who provide us with these nest sites. And the question is for them, are you willing to share your data? Are you willing to share your name and your email and participate in this and collect more data through monitoring several times a year? We also work with research partners who are providing us with data, and they, in turn, are collecting data potentially from citizens. And we have two examples of that today. We have Honeybee Wild in Luxembourg, and we have Bee Wild in Italy, and they will hopefully share their perspectives. Additionally, they have a relationship with us at Honeybee Watch, and the question is, what data do they share? What do they not share? Why, with whom, etc. We also are in partnership with the IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. We are spearheading the reassessment of Apis mellifera in Europe, and we have asked research partners to share their data with IUCN to know where these populations are distributed throughout Europe, as well as to share the data with Honeybee Watch. And in some instances, they've been willing to share it for both projects, and some they have not. And hopefully we'll dive into that aspect. And then there are other global entities like BeeLife, represented today by Noa, the European Pollinator Hub, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. And what is the relationship that Honeybee Watch will have with them? Will we be sharing our data with them? Will they be sharing data with us? And also, can our research partners and our citizens' data be shared more widely with other types of groups? There's also open source. A lot of organizations are looking at that as a model. And we wonder whether or not we will be open source as well, whether our partners would be willing to be open source. What are the advantages of this? What are the disadvantages? So the issues go on and on and on. And hopefully we're going to have really kind of deep and profound explorations of these topics in today's symposium. So I can continue, but really what we're trying to do is listen to our guests. So today we will hear from three experts from Luxembourg, Italy, and in Brussels representing the EU. Each of them will get 12 minutes to talk about their projects, to tell their stories, and comment on these issues of data rights and data sharing. After their presentations, we'll have a panel discussion for about 30 minutes, and then we'll open the floor to your questions in the remaining time. What I would like to do now is move to Paolo Fontana. So Paolo leads a similar project in Italy called Be Wild, with hundreds of sites that have been identified and recorded into a database. He was a founding member of Honeybee Watch in 2020 and is involved in countless other projects and studies on Apis mellifera and other species. He's contributed data to the IUCN reassessment as well, but has been hesitant to contribute the data into the Honeybee Watch study. In full disclosure, he is not alone. This is something that we hear from many prospective research partners. And if there's time, I would love to discuss what your reluctance might be, because I think it's indicative of an issue that's much wider than what we just face at Honeybee Watch. So Paolo, if you would like to share your screen and load up your presentation and unmute yourself. I see you are already. I'm going to give you the timer, and then when the bell rings, you have about a minute left. So, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Great. Please begin.
Okay. I am basically an entomologist. I studied for many years many different insects, and from more or less the same time, I am a beekeeper. But for many years, the study of insects and beekeeping was two different topics of my life. Only recently, in 2014, I realized that Apis mellifera is not a domesticated species, and that we don't know a lot of things about it, and that these species need a special protection, being a wild species and a keeped species. And so we started with a focus on the conservation of the many subspecies that are inside the Western honeybee. And in 2018, we worked in Italy to these documents, the San Michele all'Adige Declaration, that was in the same year published in the Bulletin of Insectology, and you can read it. So we focused on the topic of the wilderness of Apis mellifera, and we start to wonder where are and how many are the wild colonies, are really disappeared or not. And to answer to this question, we realized at the beginning, in cooperation with Colos, this app that was made to make a census of the wild colonies and offering some information to research. So Be Wild is an app based on the work of people. Is a typical citizen science activity, and it allows to geolocating colonies in a quite precise model, and I will explain why, and to add some observation. The first problem was to ensure the privacy of people when you publish photos and so on, and also the problem reported also by earlier that in some case people confuse a nest of Vespa crabrus with a nest of Apis mellifera. So The harder decision to take building the app was, shall we give or not the precise local place of the colony? At the end, we decided to give the exact position. And after 3 years in Italy, we are very happy to have done this decision, because to make people know where are the colonies is the first way to protect them. If colonies are not known in their position, it's very difficult to protect them. But I must say that very, very few cases we know that colonies have been removed, but have not been removed in the night, but clearly because they were disturbing and so on. And so people, the guardian of the colonies, advised us. So know where the colonies are is very important. And now we are working to a signal to put, especially where the colonies are in town, in archaeological sites, in natural reserve, make that people look at this wild Apis mellifera. So the app was built to work all around Europe and all around the world. It works in Italian and in English for the moment. If it will take place in other countries, it will be possible to improve also with other languages. There is a guide that explains the goals of the app and all the steps to do the survey. And there are some information, like the height from the ground, the kind of nest that we classify and we show with some images. Is good to take 2 pictures, one wider to see the place where it is, and one that circle the colony, because in the same place that there are more colonies. So this is what we have for now. More or less, there are about 500 colonies, of some of them not very much in reality. We know if they are still alive. We know that in some cases are dead, but the nest have been recognized, because the app monitor the nest. The nest is very important. The colony change, because every swarm, the colony change. But the nest, as have been told before, it's very important. It's very easy that year after year colonies can return this. We have some preliminary data, because in 3 years we are starting to work what to see, what to look, and probably this winter we are going to make a restyling, a little restyling of the app. But what is interesting is that about 60% of the colonies are in wall cavity, but there is also a 22% living inside dead tree trunk. The height from the ground is very interesting, because we have that about 30% between 2 and 5 meters, more than 20% up between 5 and 10 meters, and about 6% over 10 meters. So these colonies are protected for the kind of nest they chosen, from the height that they have. And so if they are there and they stay there for years, it's very difficult to remove them. And so they are very, very safe. What we are observing from this app is that it's not so easy to say that colonies want to be spread. We are observing that where possible, colonies tend to group in a very dense apiary, natural apiary. So we started to analyze this aspect, biological aspect, and we realized that bees has a home range so wide in reason of the fact that the nesting sites are different from foraging sites, because they forage in meadows where they want, but they need cavity to nest. So sometimes these cavities are grouped, like in a stone, like in a forest on the border of meadows, and so on. And so we are starting to imagine, to study this community of colonies that we temporarily named oikos, from this Greek word that describe a physical and symbolic space in which the life of the extended family take place. And we observed, like in this railway bridge in Sardinia, that many colonies group together, and so in 2021, we started also with the project Domus Mellifera, our artificial nest. And in 2022, we organized the first International Congress on Free Living or Wild Colonies, and we worked to the Pantelleria Declaration. And we are finishing a project supported from the Agricultural Ministry of Italy to study wild colonies and to do sampling from managed and unmanaged colonies, and to do morphomolecular analysis and trace a virological profile. And in this project, we have set empty nest, but also we do an active rewilding with bees of the beekeeper that are nearby the wild nest. So we are working about 360 degrees. There are a lot of things to understand about the biology of honeybees. And I must say that in Italy, beekeepers are very collaborative in this. Also, scientists are well aware that wild colonies are not a problem for the colonies kept by beekeepers, but it is the reverse in case. And so it's a beginning, and we hope to be able to cooperate to understand this problem. But I would like to outline that to speak of wild or free-living colonies, to don't keep the problem of the conservation of the local subspecies, it's absurd by my point of view. So we have to join activities on wild colonies, surviving colonies, but we will lose them if we continues in Europe or in other part of the world to generate this genetic contamination with hybrid bees, bees moved from a country to another. Thank you very much.
That was great, Paolo. You got all of it within not even 11 minutes. So thank you very much for staying on time. Lots and lots of information. Great progress with Be Wild, and a total inspiration for others who might want to start research projects where they're located.